So about a week ago, The Last of Us 2 Remastered came out, and I think you're expecting me to talk about the no return mode that was added, which I will discuss, but also talk about, if The Last of Us 2 was even worth being remastered. And to make quick thoughts about that, I don't think it needed to be remastered. I still don't, even after the update. I think this could have literally just been a free update to the base PS4 game. But it's no secret that the story of this game is controversial. You've got people that act like this game said Martha.
Why did you say that name? Stop! Why did you say that name?
You've got people that act like this game's story is some exquisite masterpiece sent down from the heavens. You've got, these people. And even though it's rare, you've got people who are just kind of neutral on the spectrum. They either think the story is just mid, decent, or pretty good. And that's kind of where I sit. I've discussed and argued about this game's story multiple and numerous times. And in my opinion, I've heard both valid and what I think is invalid criticism on this game's story. I think there's a lot of people that don't understand some of the things that the story was trying to tell, and people who do understand a good amount of what the story was trying to tell and still take issue with the execution of it. But no matter how you feel about the story, there's no arguing that it's a story that does have nuance. It provokes emotion and 4 years worth of discussion, and that discussion will still likely continue. And I think that's something that you really do have to give it credit for. The fact that you can have those kinds of conversations about this game years after release says something about what its story has done. So with all that being said, that is exactly why in today's video, I will not be talking about the story. What I'm here to talk about is what I think this game specifically doesn't get enough credit for, and that's being a damn video game. A game with only 4 hours of cutscenes that took me 37 goddamn hours to complete on Grounded. Mostly narrative driven game, my ass. This shit felt like Dark Souls Gun Apocalypse Edition. People treat both Last of Us games like they're fucking Telltale games, and that's why I think Last of Us 1 gets a lot of its gameplay issues overlooked, because the story is a masterpiece, and to be fair, I also held this opinion until, I replayed it. And when I did replay it, I was like, the gameplay here really isn't that good. And I'll hold my tongue on the remake's gameplay because I haven't played the remake, so maybe I'm wrong about that. But in the same way that I think people overrate The Last of Us 1 and forget about its gameplay issues, I think people underrate The Last of Us 2 because they forget that this game actually has incredible gameplay. And with the no return mode that just came out, this kind of lets that pure gameplay element of it shine. So that's what I'm here to talk about today in this video, so let's get into it. So as I mentioned, I recently played through this game on Grounded for the first time. My other playthrough, I'm pretty sure I played on the difficulty right under Survivor difficulty, and that was the first time I ever played the game. And while I still think the gameplay is pretty damn good on those difficulties, and while you can certainly classify this game as an action-adventure game, what it really is most of the time is a stealth game, because when you're playing on Survivor and mostly Grounded, it really makes the depth of the gameplay get artificially boosted, and some may think that's a problem, but I really don't, because when you play on the hardest difficulties in this game, and this is gonna sound of pretentious, but I really don't know how to say this without saying it. Every encounter in this game really does feel like a new puzzle that you have to figure out with the limited resources that you have. You have a very simplistic toolkit at your disposal. Every single bullet and everything you have in your inventory matters, which is why having good aim in this game is so important. But it's up to you to get as creative as possible with that toolkit that you have and use it as efficiently as possible to conserve as many resources as possible for the next encounter. And there's some encounters where you don't have enough resources at all to complete it, so you have to just stealth your way through the encounter and only take out 1 or 2 enemies, or just killing nobody entirely. So you have to be really patient studying enemy movements and having enough composure to not use resources killing an enemy just because you can, because it may not be smart in that current moment. And even if you do have a good amount of resources, killing an enemy at times still may not be smart, because if you have bad positioning within the level design, you're going to be pinned down, and it makes it a lot harder avoiding gunfire from people, or the AI I should say, who rarely ever miss shots. I swear to God, it's like fighting Deadshot every encounter. So as you move through the environments trying to avoid taking damage, even when you're not playing extremely stealthily, you still need to play really smart. And when I say you have to move through these levels and the environments within them like smartly, I really mean it, because enemies can see you from very far away and very easily, and they can also hear your footsteps if you're not careful when walking near them. And that element that I just talked about specifically is especially important when you're in encounters with infected and have to deal with stuff like clickers and shamblers. Like, let's take this clip here for a good example of a lot of the things I'm talking about. I shoot this guy and I see other people, and I see like ammo on the floor, and then I see the other people over here, so I move up to get an angle, but there's a guy to my left. So I try to shoot him, but I miss the shot. Or I don't really miss the shot, I kind of just hit him in the shoulder and it would have been a headshot. But you see I take damage. And the next thing I do is make a mistake, because then I go out into the right, which doesn't have any cover, and the person is expecting me to be there because that's the direction I just ran, and I go to the right and I get like immediately shot. But what I could have done instead is I could have gone to the left, and there's a little crevice where you could go into the house next to me, and I could have got a left side angle on him where he wouldn't even have known that I went there. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about when it comes to like the positioning and having good aim, and how you have to smartly move through these environments to avoid death. And despite not having like Arkham Knight or Metal Gear 5 levels of flexibility and creativity and tools to play with, there's still room for creativity with this system, and the limited amount of resources that you have available. Most of the encounters in this game can be tackled in like 15 plus different ways, and you always get a new experience with each and every encounter. When I look at the great stealth games that I've played personally, I think of Splinter Cell Blacklist, I think of Arkham City, I think of Arkham Origins, and I think of Arkham Knight mostly. And the Arkham series, for example, when compared to a game like Splinter Cell Blacklist or Last of Us 2, the Arkham series takes a kind of a different approach. It has the power fantasy of being Batman, there's a lot of creativity at your disposal, and your movement isn't very limited due to the grappling hook and things like vents. So when you mess up and get caught, there's never really much of a punishment, since you can just like grapple away quickly, jump into a vent, throw a batarang, throw a smoke bomb. Whereas with games like Splinter Cell Blacklist or Last of Us 2, you have to be more careful with what you do and how you use your tools, because making one wrong move could ruin your whole encounter and you may have to restart it, or you'll just die. And with Last of Us 2 specifically, resource management is very important as well. And that's why the other element of this game's gameplay being exploration is also very important, because you're really gonna want to like look through every nook and cranny to find as many resources as possible. But that's not to knock on like Arkham's stealth system, because it's not like it's impossible to die or there's no challenge with Arkham's stealth system. But instead of like the power fantasy and creativity heavy approach that Arkham Knight, for example, takes, it removes some balance that works really well in these more like grounded style of games. And when you get creative in Last of Us 2, it feels so rewarding, because that means you can save resources that you really need. And now we get to the no return game mode, and I think this is a really good addition. I don't think it's as good as something like God of War Valhalla, which was another add-on to another Sony game that just came out recently, but I still think the roguelite mode in this game mode is very well made. You've got like 10 different playable characters that all change a bit of how you play. You've got, I'm pretty sure, like 5 different boss fights at the end of every run. You've got 3 different game modes, a bunch of different environments taken from the base game, and all the enemy variety and factions taken from the base game. You've got custom runs, so if you don't like some of the game modes, factions, or mods, you can customize the experience to take out anything that you might not like. And you've also got a daily run mode, where you can compete against players to get the best run in the leaderboards every day. My only real criticisms of this game mode are, number one, the game can be like really irritating on grounded mode, because you can't see your health. So in between levels, if you get hit, you don't know how much health you have and how much damage that you can take if you want to make risky plays. And you also don't get health when ending a level, so it kind of makes me personally forget how much I might have gotten hit previously. I understand this is probably a personal issue, but I just thought I'd say it, because even though you should always be trying to avoid damage in this game, when you forget or not know how much health you have, it can be really annoying. And my second criticism is not being able to dodge with Joel and Tommy. That's really annoying. Now, they do have their little weapons and like melee resistance and like caveats to why they can't dodge. But when you get stun locked with them, it's really irritating, because you can't do anything. Especially when fighting a bunch of runners and stalkers, or like when a melee guy flanks you from behind and you can't hear or see them because the camera doesn't let you see things behind you, and they sometimes crouch walk so you can't hear them creeping up on you when they like flank you from behind. Overall, I'd give this game mode a solid like 8 out of 10, because even though it doesn't have many issues, I still think they could have done a bit more to improve it. Maybe add in some co-op, a new faction, new bosses, more game modes. I think if they did all or some of that, I would be like a lot more satisfied with this game mode, but it's still a great game mode that I've been enjoying the hell out of. And this game mode also really makes me sad because it shows just like the sheer potential that factions could have capitalized on. I wouldn't even care if they just copy and pasted the first game's online mode into this game. I just really want to play online again with this gameplay because it really is just amazing. I didn't play a lot of The Last of Us 1 online because I was a stupid little kid the first time I played that game, and I didn't get to appreciate greatness when I was poppin'. Also, it wasn't really poppin' because I played that game for the first time in like 2015, but I do remember what I played of it being fun. And with the gameplay and level design that Last of Us 2 has, it could be even better. I'll never forgive them for canceling factions. I really won't. It's so annoying. But to conclude this video, again, I think this game's gameplay goes extremely unnoticed and extremely underappreciated, and I barely ever hear or have heard anyone really talk about it in both of these games. It's not like I've heard nobody talk about how much the gameplay is really good in this game, but all anyone I feel like ever talks about with these games is how good or bad the story is, and I'm just sitting here like, okay, but like, what about the video game? I don't know. It's just like, I don't get it. Overall, I'd give both Last of Us games a solid 9 out of 10. Obviously, the first game's story is like literally one of the best stories ever made, way better than the second game story. But I also think that Last of Us 2 does like literally everything else better than Last of Us 1. I like them both just as much as each other for different reasons. And even though I think this remaster is completely unnecessary, it was a really good remaster. I'm happy about the no return mode. I haven't played the Lost levels yet because I've literally just been so caught up in the no return mode. It's nice that they added stuff like developer commentary and all that stuff. I didn't really run into any bugs except for this.
Have you been sleeping these days? Not great.
But with all that being said, I'd like to give a quick shout out to all my Patreons. If you would like to support me on Patreon, it's only $2 a month, and you would be helping a brother out a lot. I thank you all for watching, and yeah.